Hello, everyone. This is Mark Anthony with Edge on Regen Show, the place where we bring you the best of the best doctors, nurse practitioners, neurologists in their niche and in their industry. We have a special guest today. We have Dr. Joseph Clark here with us. You can get a hold of him at 412-615-3804. Again, 412-615-3814. You can also find him at aspirepittsburgh.com. aspirepittsburgh.com. It's about time I get an easy business to say. Sometimes I get these long words. aspirepittsburgh.com. I'm excited. I'm sorry. I had to go for the trifecta. You can find him in Wexford, Pennsylvania. That's right. Today, we're going to be talking about a few things. And before we do, don't you just want to feel like when you were younger, everyone? Don't you wish you could sometimes feel like the version you felt when you're in your early 20s? I know I do. And today we're going to be talking about something that's really close to my heart lately. And I think it will be. Since I'm 47 years old, I've noticed that the engine has slowed down a little bit. This 1976 Mustang has slowed down. The spark plugs are getting a little bit older. Guys, your vehicle is your car. Invest in you. So today we're going to be talking about, and this is the topic. This is the, I call it the magic pill to feel better. Or is it? Is it a magic pill? Or are we talking about pills? So again, thank you so much, Dr. Joseph Clark, for being here with us.
Thank you. Not a problem. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. I'd like to ask you before we get into talking about this magic pill. How did you get into being a doctor? Tell us your story.
Wow. Big story. So, I've been a physician for a little over 20 some years, 24 years almost. And, I got into medicine strictly because my stepfather was a general practitioner. Mm-hmm. And, he kind of influenced my early life and, felt that I had what I needed to go to medical school. And so he was a big influence on my life. And that's what kind of got me into the desire to go into the medical field. And then as I did that, I really liked the procedural work. I really liked the sicker patients. I like the freedom to do a lot of different things. I like pediatrics. I like some of the medical stuff with internal medicine. I like the procedural stuff. And I thought emergency medicine kind of fit that bill. So my majority of my career has been as an emergency physician. I'm board certified, residency trained ER doc. And I got into this type of medicine about 5 to 6 years ago, only because I wanted to do something a little different. I saw, so many patients coming into the emergency department that were just younger and younger and younger, and were getting more and more pills thrown at them and just didn't seem to be really making much difference. And so that kind of sparked a little bit of an interest in me to kind of see what else there was out there to kind of specialize in. And myself at the time, I was getting older. I was in my late 30s, early 40s, and was having some symptoms and side effects of things. And so that led me to my own doctor. I didn't like to treat myself, so I went to my own doctor, and that kind of started me down this road too. And I really saw how, even though doctors and my own doctor was very good, he didn't really know a lot about testosterone replacement. And there was a lot of, I don't know if it was correct viewpoints on it and so forth. And so that led me to research a little bit more, get some more training, and eventually led to me starting this practice.
Wow. So would you say that your passion for your TRT kind of started with yourself?
Yeah, no, I would say so. I mean, I felt pretty lousy. I was having a lot of different side effects and symptoms. And, I saw how the general medical community, in terms of how traditional medicine is, really didn't feel like treating testosterone deficiency was an important thing. They kind of feel like, well, if your level's 300, that's fine. And it's not fine. It's the same level for someone who's 20 as it is for someone who's 90 when it comes to the reference scale and in the viewpoint of general medicine. And so I just felt that, something else has to be done, you know. So I reached out to a clinic very similar to ours at the time and started there. And you know, after doing that for a short period of time, I thought, you know, I could do this. This is pretty interesting to me, and I really enjoy it. And I really enjoy, you know, learning more about this. And so that led me to seek out my business partner, Tom Morjanovic, who runs our clinic down in the Orlando area and had the established clinic there. And, you know, I wanted to start a clinic up north, but I'm not a businessman. I'm a physician. And so he is more of the business side of things. And so we met and things just kind of solidified. And we thought, hey, let's get this clinic going up in the north. And so we did. And it's been very successful and things have been going really great. And, you know, he's been kind of working on the business side of things to help us expand as a business and as a clinic. But we needed each other. You know, he was not a medical person. He was more of a business entrepreneur.
Your giftings.
Yep. And I didn't have that skill set. And so, you know, it worked out pretty well for the both of us.
That's awesome. So the number one thing I'd like to ask here is testosterone just for muscle building, or even, you know, just so you can have a better sexual side? Because a lot of people talk about that when you take testosterone, you know, when you start working out, you're able to get really great muscle build. It actually sticks when you're taking it. And then of course, let's say your libido is very low. They said that a lot of people say that, hey, you know, it arises. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I mean, I think testosterone replacement, you have to look at it from the standpoint of it is not an anabolic cycle. There's differences in how people take testosterone. Testosterone, I think a lot of the stigma that comes from testosterone has been because of people who have used it for the anabolic reasons in the past. And so, you know, there are still people that use it for anabolic cycles. And, you know, I'm not here to judge anyone for their personal decisions, but you know, if you use it in a high dose situation and you're cycling it, that's a totally different thing than what testosterone replacement therapy is. Testosterone replacement therapy is basically trying to get you back to where you should be for your age and to get you to a level that's appreciable for the age that you're at. Okay. And so, you know, there is this epidemic that we really don't know reason for, where men and even women, but men are having lower and lower testosterone levels than the generation before. Men today have lower testosterone levels than their grandparents do, and they don't know why. They don't know if it's because of plastics that we're using. They don't know if it's because of hormones in our food. They don't know if it's because of chemicals that they spray our food with. It could be a number of things, but they've statistically seen over the last 3 generations where testosterone levels have declined substantially. And so we're seeing more and more men in their younger years have substantial problems. And like you said, you know, it's not just the sexual side of things and the muscular stuff that comes with it. Testosterone is not a wonder drug. And the reasons we're giving it to patients for replacement therapy, again, this is just where you're supposed to be. So it's not going to give you that anabolic effect that you're maybe thinking or hoping for. Is getting you to where you should be for your age. And so could you improve your physique and your muscular tone and everything like that with it? Absolutely. If you're working out and you now have the substrate to build muscle that you didn't have for who knows how long, and now you do have that, then obviously your physique is going to change and your body composition is going to change. We do see a lot of men and women who lose weight, mainly fat, after starting testosterone, because it's been shown that it decreases visceral fat, which then decreases insulin resistance, which then improves your body's metabolism, and you have less chances to gain weight because of the insulin resistance. So it does have a lot of that effect. But, you know, there are the things that come back with that in terms of your sexual interest and libido. That's a lot of things that we're really not making it hyper acute, but we're trying to get you back to where you should as a, you know, 30, 40, 50-year-old person. You know? And so, you know, sexual side effects are big in medicine right now. You know, the Cialis, the Viagra's, I mean, they're big money makers, but they don't treat the root cause, which could very well be testosterone deficiency. We see that quite a bit. And so, you know, in general medicine or traditional medicine, most patients are treated with those drugs before they're ever treated with testosterone. And a lot of times it just means, or just takes fixing their testosterone levels to get those symptoms to go away. So, like I said, big difference between, the anabolic side of it and the replacement side of it, which is really where we're kind of focusing on.
Wow. It's interesting. And I would love your opinion on this. And again, I know it's just an opinion, so that's fine. What would you say? You mentioned something that, our grandparents had better testosterone at our age. And again, it's your opinion. What do you think it is? Do you think it's the foods that we eat? They're maybe a lot different. They're
It's hard
more.
to say.
I don't know.
I think some of it is, environmental. I think we live much more sedentary lives than our grandparents probably did. So I think a lot of it is just activity. I mean, it's been very well shown that if you're more active, if you do more physical work, that your testosterone levels are better. And so, I think some of it's that they just did more physical labor than maybe this generation does. But I do think there's a lot of issues that come from our diets, not necessarily because there's anything nefarious going on in the food supply, but we eat more processed food than ever before.
You're right.
We eat more sugary foods than we've ever had before. We eat more carbohydrates than we've ever had before. And as we gain weight, body fat and weight gain and insulin resistance all feeds back into decreasing testosterone levels. So it could be some things in our food supply, whether it be hormones in our meats and things like that, or atrazine and things like that they spray on the food. It could be a lot of different things, but it could also be that we just don't eat the same foods nowadays that we did a generation ago. They just are different foods and different types of foods. So it could be a lot of things. It is probably multifactorial, is my guess.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. And I noticed. So I'm 47, and so I'm an 80s kid. I noticed that the food back then in the 80s and early 90s was a little bit different. And what I mean by that, I'm not trying to get all conspiracy theorists. So do you remember those really in the 80s, the Hostess cakes? Oh my God, they were so good. They were wrapped in the actual real aluminum foil, not plastic. So if you were to go get a Hostess cake right now, it's in a little plastic deal and it's tinier. It's also smaller. And it didn't have that freshness. I'm not saying anything about it, but now it just seems a lot more hard. Back then it was moist, it was soft. Yeah. And I just noticed things just maybe taste better, or maybe I'm just getting older and I thought they taste better.
I think we definitely use more preservatives in our food. I think we definitely package food much different. We process food much different. Just the plastics that we use to reheat and store food. That's very well shown that, microwaving and plastics causes all kinds of stuff to come out of the plastic. So, and again, I'm no conspiracy theorist either, but these are things that have been shown to happen. And so
radiation too could probably hurt the cells.
Oh yeah, I would guess. Yeah, for sure. But it's interesting to see that, things are just slowly dwindling over the course of people's generations. And like I said, we're seeing people now in their 20s and 30s, and even some, I've had some people that are, barely over 25 years old that have just dismal testosterone levels. And it's interesting. It's not interesting in a good way. It's concerning, but nonetheless, it leads to a lot of problems in terms of emotional and psychiatric problems. Just because people don't feel like they should, a lot of body image issues because of gaining weight and so forth, sexual side effects that come into that, and then fertility issues that may come into that as well. So there's a lot of issues that kind of come off of this.
It's interesting, and I'm kind of staying on the subject just a little. We'll go to the next question, but I was looking at a picture from the 70s of the beach. And what was interesting when I was looking at the picture of the 70s and the beach and the picture now, people were thinner. So I'm just putting, 1 + 1 is 2, not saying I'm a doctor at it, but things that make you think. But what's also weird too, is that we're also living longer. So that's another, if you were to compare the living length of people in the 70s, it was actually a little bit shorter from studies that I've done. And I'm not saying I'm correct or anything, but when you look at it now, people are living a lot longer. So it's interesting. There's this, double side effect. But the next question I have is for testosterone for women. A lot of people think that testosterone is only for men. I've even heard my own wife say this. I'm not going to take testosterone. I'm like, what? I don't want to be hairy. I don't want to look like you. I'm like, okay, well, thanks. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, testosterone replacement in women is a very interesting topic. I mean, we do a lot of it. Most of the time when we do it, it's because women may come to us and say, hey, I have no sexual interest whatsoever. I love my husband, I love my partner, but there's just nothing there. There's no interest. There's no fire. I can't get things to be better. Right. And it's putting a stress on my relationship. It's putting a stress on both of us. And so, just looking at their lab studies and then seeing that their testosterone levels are dismally low, you can really change somebody's life, with just a little bit of testosterone to improve those things that they're dealing with. Now, there's also I always tell patients there's the short-term benefit and the long-term benefit. The short-term benefit being, obviously you want to, feel better, look better, sexually perform better. Mm-hmm. But then there's a long-term gain in that, in terms of osteoporosis risk wow. of muscle loss as you grow older. One of the biggest things that I see in the emergency department as people get older are hip fractures from falls. People that fall can't get up off the floor because they don't have the muscle strength they once had. They don't have the ability to, walk as well as they could, or even just get up off the floor if they were to have a fall. Hip fractures and vertebral fractures are very big causes of morbidity and mortality in older people. And so, just the bone density side of things that comes into play with osteoporosis, testosterone does combat that because you maintain more muscle mass. That improves your bone density and
cardiovascular, everything.
And yeah, all those things downstream have a benefit. So, there's the benefit of the sexual improvement and so forth, in the short term, but in the long term, there's a lot of benefit in terms of your ability to maintain muscle mass and bone density as you age, because, those are things that'll put you in the ground as far as morbidity and mortality. So, there's a lot of benefit from that standpoint also. And there's really no risk with giving testosterone to women. The biggest things that we'll see is more physical side effects, where you might see some hair thinning or acne breakouts if the dose is too high. But usually it's dose dependent, and just backing off on those doses improves those situations. So it's usually very well tolerated. And we're using very, very minute amounts as opposed to a male, supplementation wise. And so, it's a much smaller amount. It doesn't take a ton, and it can make a profuse, impact on someone.
Wow. So what would you say for testosterone for women? Is there really any side effects? And the reason I'm kind of honing in on that is I know that we already talked about the hair thing, but are there any bad side effects? Because there's an old school saying, anything that's too good to be true is too good to be true, or anything that's works really great, there could be a kickback. Just like if I eat too many Twinkies, it's okay for a Twinkie once in a while, but if I eat a Twinkie every day, I'm going to be looking like a Twinkie.
Right. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, when we see patients and they are considering this, the biggest questions that I see are, is this going to make me aggressive? Is this going to make me angry all the time? Is it going to make me muscle bound and things like that? I don't want to lose my feminine side of things. And it's really not. Like I said, we're only trying to get you to the higher end of the lab scale when we do your blood work. If you're way at the low bottom, we're just trying to get you maybe to the top end of that lab scale, maybe just even a little bit past. Not super therapeutic to where you're having, all kinds of side effects and symptoms. Usually when side effects and symptoms come into play, it's because you're just simply on too much. And so just tailoring that dose to fit the patient usually is all that's necessary.
Okay.
Like I said, there are people that always fall out of that sometimes people just don't like how they feel on it or don't tolerate it well or whatever. But I would have to say the vast majority of women do very well on testosterone, and it makes a grand difference. Not just in the things we talked about, but also, again, the visceral fat loss, the muscle maintenance that allows them to burn more fat, that allows them to feel more vibrant, allows them to go outside and do more things because they have more energy and more physical ability. Those are the things that as they age, play a big part.
I love what you do, and I'll tell you why. A lot of people don't realize that. I would say, and again, this is just me, I'm no doctor, but probably 90-95% of people need TRT and they don't realize it. And they just think, I'm just getting older. See, that's a lie that's been said to us. We got to be careful what we say.
Yeah, unfortunately, in the medical community, they kind of tell you that. They use that statement. It's just part of growing old. I've seen many patients that have seen their doctor about this or have done a home testosterone test or what have you, and they say, "Hey, my T is low," and they go to their doctor about it, and they go, "That's just part of growing old. You just have to deal with it."
Well, I can say it, but you're right. But see, I can say this, so I'm going to throw this out there. And guys out there in internet land, I'm not a physician. This is an actual doctor, so I'm going to say it. The reason why I believe, I could be wrong, I'm okay with that, but it's because they can't make money off of it. So if the big box doctors out there aren't able to make money on this, guys, and your insurance doesn't cover it, that means they got the good stuff. Let me tell you why. A lot of these big box doctors are going to say, take this pill. And then after you're done, but when that pill starts to wear off, they're going to be like, don't worry about it. Take this other pill. See, this pill will it'll make you feel better, but your right leg will start to numb, or you'll start to get a little tingle in your nose every 5 minutes. I'm exaggerating, my friends. What I'm saying is you can't keep covering things with pills and pills. Oh, but it doesn't cover. That's why I mentioned the car. You are worth it, my friends. Find a regenerative medicine doctor, find somebody, call Dr. Clark. He can also do it. You guys can do a counsel, I'm sure, on Zoom. I'm sure you guys do things like that. But all I'm saying to people out there, if they don't take insurance, it doesn't mean you stop there. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. One of the things that, has kind of led me into this type of medicine is that, a lot of medical practice nowadays is dictated by insurance companies.
Right.
And that's just the sad reality of things. And it's dictated by pharma. As a physician, and it's maybe not even the physician's fault. The physician only has so much time to research and look into new medical therapies and so forth. And if the drug rep comes in and says, "Hey, this is the new latest and greatest, you should use this, and we'll leave some samples for you to give your patients," that's what they're going to use. And so pharma definitely impacts what is used in medicine, without a doubt. Pharma definitely impacts reimbursement. Pharma definitely impacts insurance companies and what they're willing to pay for. And so, it's taken me a while in my career, but I definitely see now that, medicine and in general and insurance companies and pharma don't make money if you are well, and they're not interested really in you being well. They're interested in you maybe continuing to be sick. And I don't know.
That sounds weird. That sounds weird though to us.
It sounds bad to say that, but it really has some truth to it. I'm not saying everybody works in the insurance realm and everybody works in pharma is a bad person. It's not the case, but pharma is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Insurance companies, multi-billion-dollar industry. If they can't make money, they can't explain things to their shareholders, and it's just how it is. So you have to, as a person, as a patient, you have to question things. You have to look at it with both eyes open. You have to look at it and say, well, I respect my physician and my doctor, but maybe I want to get another opinion on things. I respect how they were taught and what their opinion is on things, but maybe I want to talk to someone else about something that is a different alternative.
100%. Like I can even you're right. Well, here's an example. Like, let's say you have neuropathy, or let's say you struggle with diabetes. You can reverse neuropathy. I know some people don't believe it, but I believe that you can. But a lot of places will say, no, just take this pill and take this pill. The next you know, you got a leg missing. Now, of course, there are some instances that it's depending on how bad that diabetes is. But I'm going to throw this out there. I'm going to read this right here. It says about 128,000 people died from drugs prescribed to them. This makes prescription drugs a major health risk, ranking 4th with stroke as a leading cause of death. I mean, if we look at that yearly, and it's like we're doing insanity. We're doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, my friend. So, if you're feeling low, you're feeling like, man, I just don't have that I'm tired. Guys, this stuff really works. Now let's go into this next question that I have: pellets versus injections. I know there's pellets that you can put into your buttocks, size of a rice grain, and then there's, of course, creams, and then there's injections, and some people are scared of the injections and some people don't. What are your thoughts on that?
So there's a lot of different modalities. Pellets are something that we don't do in our clinic, and there's a few reasons why. One is that to feel your best, my philosophy is that being as close to physiologic is what's going to make you feel your best. Being as close to what your natural physiology is going to make you feel your best. If you take a pellet, that pellet has a massive dose that is going to be released as it's placed. I mean, it's meant to be time released, but you're still going to get a fairly large bolus of that hormone. So you're going to have a very high peak, and then you're going to drop off, okay, in terms of the pharmacological metabolism curve. Mm-hmm. If you're taking something like an injection a few times a week, or even a cream that you take twice a day, those peaks and valleys are going to be much less severe. And when you have much less of that, you're going to have a lot less side effects. Side effects typically come when you have these large surges and then drops in the levels of the hormone. Mm-hmm. People will tend to feel like they're on top of the world with the pellet in the first few weeks to maybe a month, and then they tend to crash because as that pellet wears off, their levels tend to go down as well. And so they kind of have this little bit of a roller coaster ride. Now, there are people that use pellets who feel very well on them and they like them. They like the convenience of them, and they don't have to take an injection or a pill every day. So there's a lot of convenience factor to it. However, my thoughts on them are that they're very much not like your natural physiology. Injections, not like your physiology as much either, but much closer in terms of you're doing it a couple times a week as opposed to, once every few months. So you're going to have a lot less of that peaks and valleys. Cream, same thing. You're a lot less that peak and valley. So it depends on, the person. It depends on the circumstance.
Everyone's different.
Everyone's different. So, I'm not here to bash any one particular method or anything like that. I try to talk to the patient and see what method they have interest in, and then try to give them the pluses and minuses of it so they can make an educated decision. There's no harm in trying one method and then switching to another method. You can do that. So if one doesn't work for you, then don't write it off. You can do a different method and maybe have very good success with it.
Wow.
But, there are a lot of different options out there. It's really kind of finding what works best for you.
Let's talk about the cream. I want to kind of dig in the cream. When I'm sure you've tried the cream. Mm-hmm. Just you help people with it, but you'd be surprised some people haven't. Would you say the cream works just as well for you? Again, you're different than somebody else, because I could try the cream and it works better for me than the injection. But just for yourself, would you say that the cream works just as good as the injection?
I think if you're getting the cream compounded in a good compounding pharmacy and it's made well, then yes, I think it is just as efficacious as an injection. Wow. The differences between the two, there are some things you have to keep in mind. One is like I said, the application of it. So you have to do it a couple times a day, morning and night typically. So if you have a compliance factor in there where you say, hey, I live a busy lifestyle, I forget to take my medicines, I may, get busy and forget to put it on. There's that part that plays into it because it doesn't do you any good if you don't take it. So there's a compliance factor there. Sometimes it's easier to comply with something you do twice a week versus something that you do twice a day. So there's a compliance factor. Secondly, with creams, there is a risk of transference, meaning that if you put it on, you don't wash yourself well, you pick up your child, you could potentially transfer that drug to the child, which can cause a lot of problems. And so, we always tell patients, if you're going to apply it at night. or in the morning and wash your hands very well. If you have small children in the house, be very careful. And we usually try to recommend a different method if they do have small children, just because people sometimes may forget to wash their hands or something like that. So there's things that come into play with all of these different things. The cream does work well in terms of getting you to the level that you're at. Like I said, less peaks and valleys, so they're going to tend to tolerate it very well. Because there's less of a bolus dose given, there's less of the aromatization of testosterone to estrogen. And so they have less estrogenic side effects with testosterone that's given daily. And if men have a lot of issues with sexual problems, DHT or dihydrotestosterone is typically the reason behind that. That's a metabolite of testosterone. And you get more DHT conversion when it's applied to the skin, mainly the scrotal area. So if people come to me specifically for sexual dysfunction, they have really bad sexual dysfunction, they've said, I've tried every drug out there, I still have issues, then sometimes I will, recommend trying the cream, just because there's higher amounts of DHT that's produced, which can give better outcomes with sexual dysfunction. That being said, the higher the DHT, the more problem with hair loss, with hair thinning. So if you're already thinning, with your hair, the more DHT that you produce could cause more rapid hair thinning. And so, I always tell men, if you're concerned about your hair loss, this could accelerate that. So the top does tend to cause more of that than the injection. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So, I usually educate patients on that. But, sometimes men have a hang up on that. Sometimes they don't. If they look like me and are already, shaving their head, then they're like, yeah, whatever. It's what it is. But, I usually tell men, if you're already thinning, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen at an accelerated rate. If you have a very thick head of hair, it's probably not going to do much, so you just have to kind of try it and see.
So you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that for men, it could accelerate a little bit if you're really bad. Now, would you say for me, somebody like me, if I got a full head of lettuce, okay, I'm like a Monchichi from the 80s. Would you say if I were to start taking, say, TRT, and by the way, I'm not, but if I were, what are your thoughts?
I think you may see a little bit, but it's probably not going to be as much as you're concerned about, because it's very thick head of hair, So I always tell patients, you just have to try and see. But men who are in their 30s and 40s that are still with a full head of hair,
I know
they're probably not going to have much, if any, issues.
I had a doctor tell me this the other day. This is funny. I brought that question to him. You know what he told me? He goes, first we were talking, he goes, I go, what if somebody struggles with anger? Will they be like really ragey? And he goes, well, here's the deal. If you're already a prick, you're just going to probably be more of a prick. and then the next one was, I go, I'm afraid if I do the injection, I'm going to lose my hair. He goes, bro. He goes, Arnold Schwarzenegger, is he bald? I go, no. He goes, is Sylvester Stallone bald? I go, no. I go, but they're rich. But my point is, he'd have a point.
Yeah. That's a valid point.
But if anybody took it the most, is them.
Yeah, if you're already in your late 30s and 40s and still have a full head of hair, it's probably going to do very little to nothing. If you're already thinning, then you're probably going to see some accelerated hair loss. It's just reality, and so I would just keep that in mind.
Yeah, awesome. So again, thank you so much for being here on the show. I know for a fact we're gonna would love to have you again, because the great thing about Dr. Joseph is he does more than just TRT. We're talking about TRT right now. But before we get off, before you tell us, how we can find you online on beautiful internet land, tell us about some of the stuff that you do in your practice besides testosterone.
Yeah, so we do peptide therapy, which is a whole other discussion. So a lot of work with peptides, hormone replacement, obviously. Medical directed weight loss, not because we don't like to really call ourselves a weight loss clinic. We're not a weight loss clinic, but we like to direct patients on proper diet, maybe improve their lab panel with regards to their fasting insulin levels and things like that, so that they can be eating the right diet for what we're seeing in their blood work, and try to get the weight off the way they should be getting it off. You do some aesthetics in the Pittsburgh clinic, so Botox, filler, some facial treatments, some body treatments. We do a lot of that kind of stuff. So we do that also at the Pittsburgh office. And in the Florida office, we also do what's called a superhuman protocol, which is red light therapy, hyperoxygenation, all that stuff. So there's a few things down there that are a little different. If they want to find us, www.aspirerejuvenation.com. Aspirerejuvenation.com is our company website, so you can direct to either clinic from there. We also still have the Aspire Pittsburgh site up, but the aspirerejuvenation.com is the main site for us. All of our contact information is on there. Obviously, Google is a good place for us as well if you need to find us. We are in the Pittsburgh and the Florida, Orlando clinics area, but we do telemedicine as well, and we're licensed in multiple states, so we can do telemedicine to a number of other states if necessary. So we have patients all over the country. So please reach out if there's anything that we can do for you, because I think we're seeing more and more people since COVID take a vested interest in their health, not because they don't trust conventional medicine, but I think they're a little more skeptical now than they were. I think people just kind of accepted carte blanche, hey, my doctor and what they tell me is, correct, and I trust them. And not to say that doctors aren't trustworthy, but I think people look at things with a little bit of a different microscope nowadays. And so, if we can help in any way, please look us up.
No, I got to go one more time. I got to go one more thing. I got fireworks going on in my head right now. So everyone, I want to throw this out there to you. You can get a hold of Dr. Joseph Clark at 412-615-3804, 412-615-3804. Here's the thing. I love to have good news all the time. We already know with what's going on with our economy, with what's going on in the world. We don't need to be negative, but we know that there's going to be another variant coming. We know that. I'm not trying to doom and gloom, but what I'm going to tell you is I'm not a doctor, but it's good to start taking care of yourself now. And TRT is not going to hurt you. It's going to actually help you with vibrance. I believe. I know you can't say this, but I believe that it'll help when you're more vibrant and everything's strong. It's going to help you from getting so sick so quickly too. And I'm just throwing that out there, my friends. Think about it. Over the past 3 years, we were taking an injection that we didn't even know what was going inside us. The beautiful thing is we know what's going inside us here. Anyways, thank you so much, Dr. Joseph Clark. You are a blessing. Blessings upon your business. And I'm excited that you're helping people. And I just want to say thank you for what you do. You guys are awesome and unbelievable.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Of course.